Hey guys, my name is Mason Ford with Team Dynamic Discs. Let's go through my bag. Let's start with the drivers. We're gonna do it a little bit different. I carry one driver up in this front pouch. It is a Chameleon X Enforcer. I threw this disc a lot at Waco, in Belton. It's just really good in the wind. It's got a really overstable flight and handles the wind really, really well. I have two more Enforcers. I have one in the Fuzion. I think all of these are 173. This Fuzion one just is a little bit less stable than the Chameleon and a little bit less wind, a lot of overstable forehand approaches when I'm not feeling the other one. My third Enforcer, kind of a popular one. I know, I found one. It's one of the Mango runs. I remember AJ Risley throwing these a while back. I got this one from Cyrus and I've been loving it since. It's not brand new, it's already a little bit worn in, but it's a great flyer. Next, I have two Defenders. I believe they're both Fuzion. I was actually talking with AJ about this the other day. He doesn't know how I got this stamp, that they were run on criminals. But yeah, I have one. So this one does not fly like the stamp says. It is very straight with not a whole lot of fade, but not a whole lot of turn. It just has a really good glide and a really good straight flight out of it. My next one, I believe this one is a BioFuzion. It's got a nice pop top to it, glides really, really well. This one holds up a lot better in the wind than the other Fuzion one does. I have a couple of these stashed away too now. I think I have two more of them. They're a really good run of the Defender. My last two drivers that I have a Royal Rive. So this is, I think, one of the first discs that I've thrown when Eric McCabe first sent me a box. This is that first Rive out of that box a couple months ago. Very understable now. Really good for stand-up forehands in wooded situations or just bombing backhand shots. This is probably one of my furthest drivers backhand for distance shots. I've been really loving it. Probably about time to put a new one in. I got this one here. This is I believe it's a hybrid Raider. I can't even honestly remember where I got it from. So this is just right out of the box. Very straight, understable driver. You can do a lot with it in nice tailwinds. A lot of, again, those forehand stand-up shots. It's just a really good distance driver. Next, let's go to the fairway drivers. I have 7 fairways. Started off with the Felon. Being from Texas, I feel like the Felon is a staple in the bag. Have to have it for the windy forehand approaches, backhand approaches. Just a good overstable fairway control driver. Just good consistent flight in the Lucid plastic. Next, I have my favorite mold. A mold that I've really come to love is the Getaway. So I have 3 different ones. I absolutely love the first run Lucid Getaways. They have a flight unlike any other fairway driver. So what I really tend to find with the Getaway is that a lot of fairway drivers will have this straight pushing, then a dump. But this seems to fly like a tighter line. So when thrown on the anhyzer, it'll hold it and have a little bit of fight out. But on the hyzers, it like wants to keep pushing on the hyzer instead of dump and just fade out. So I feel like they kind of fly, instead of this big of a margin, a much smaller margin. If I have any air, it doesn't show it as much as what a regular overstable fairway driver might. Loving the first run Getaway in the Lucid. Another disc from Cyrus. He sent me one of his fundraiser stamps for the 2020 season, and this happens to be a burst Getaway, a Fuzion burst. And this just is a little bit more overstable flight, holds up in a little bit better in the wind. Same job. I kind of can't wait to see what this one will do when it breaks in. Another Fuzion Getaway here. I believe these are all in the 170 somewhere. I really don't have a weight preference. This one is much more overstable than the other two. It has really good glide. and it has a really good fade to it, but kind of like what I said, it doesn't dump out. It kind of has that pushing fade. My next fairway driver is actually one of my favorite to throw, the Lucid Vandal. It's just a really fun disc, especially in the woods. Hyzer flip, turns, fades. Really fun to throw rollers, backhand or forehand escape, kind of forehand rollers to get out of trouble. Probably the best beginner-friendly disc from DD. Honestly, it's just a good, consistent feel, great fun flight. Next up, I have two Explorers. I have this Opto Explorer. I actually think I got this in the same box that I got the Rive from Eric, so it's one of my first Explorers I've ever thrown. Right away when I threw it, I kind of expected it to be more overstable, but it really wasn't. It was just kind of like a point and shoot. If I throw it really hard, I can even get a little bit of turn out of it. Just a good, straight, glidey fairway driver with a little bit of finish at the end. This other Explorer is an Emerson Keith Opto-X. This is what I expected an Explorer to fly like. Just a great, overstable flight, really good for 350 foot, slight headwind, right to left wind. You just know what this one's gonna do. It doesn't have very much glide as this other one. It's just got a great 7-speed, overstable flight. All right, my last two, I don't really throw dyed discs too often, but I actually got this one from a really close friend, John Cassis, out of San Antonio, and he got me a Pac-Man dyed first run Evader, and this has been probably one of my go-to fairway drivers. So this just seems to have a little bit less glide than the Explorers. So when I'm looking for a shot that I really don't need it to go as far, I really like to throw this. Even in some wooded shots, I know if I kick a tree or anything like that, it's not gonna go as far as if I throw the Explorer and I get a kick. Pretty much the same flight, maybe slightly less overstable than the Explorer. This last one is a Fuzion-X Maverick. This is just a really fun disc to throw too. I feel like I can hit it on this little bit of hyzer. It's perfect for that 350 foot range where I don't really feel comfortable or I have to throw a mid-range too hard. I can just kind of throw it nice and soft on a slight hyzer and know it'll kind of turn over, or in tailwinds I can throw it out and it'll fade out for me. Moving on to the mids, I like to keep it simple. I only throw 4. I know some players like to have like 5 or 6, but at that point I feel like I'm just starting to overthink the shot. So I like to keep it simple and just stick to 4. First one I have is a Moonshine X Justice. I like it because forehand approaches in windy situations, forehand scramble shots in the woods. You know, the typical thing you'd use a Justice for. Just a good, not glidey, overstable flight. I just really enjoy the stiff feel of it, the flat top. It's good for forehands. Gotta have a Justice in the bag. Have to in Texas. My next one, I have a Fuzion Verdict. Just a really good straight to overstable. It's actually really torque resistant. In the wind, I was throwing it for some of these shots in Belton and in Waco, and I was really enjoying how much torque resistance they have. And I feel like it makes it a really good forehand disc as well, because you can throw it a little bit harder than what you think you can. I don't know what it is, I don't know what makes it so much different than like a Truth, but it just seems to hold so much more spin and torque than a regular mid-range does for its overstability. My next mid-range, I have a Lucid, I think it's a pre-EMAC Truth, and this has just been one of my favorite mid-ranges. It's just point and shoot. If I want to throw it flat, it'll have a little bit of turn, but it'll fade. I can throw it on a little bit of anhyzer, carry it out. I can throw it on the hyzer, stand up and have some finish to it. I like it because I can play with the angles and the spin. If I throw it really nose down, I can get it to just kind of drift and fade. It's kind of a really good teaching tool as well, because I can kind of play whatever angle I want it to do. So my last mid-range, I have a Goldline Fuse. I'm a huge advocate for throwing flippy mid-ranges. You know, this is my throw it flat, late fade, hyzer flip with a little bit more power, still gets that nice late fade to it. I can trust it on a hyzer to get flat. I mean, just dances in the woods. It's a great flying high glide mid-range. Last, let's go to my putters. I have 3 throwing putters. Kind of the same thing back to the Justice, just a little bit slower. I have the Emerson Keith Tournament Plastic Harp. So I was bagging a VIP X for a while. I just didn't like that it was a little bit slick to the feel. And when he gave this to me, I didn't expect this to be as overstable as it is either. I don't know what it is. I've thrown a couple other TP harps and they're just not as overstable, but this one for some reason is. So the VIP X got kicked out of the bag. I really enjoy it. Again, great for wooded touch shots, approaches, windy approaches. Always good to have in the Texas wind. I have one more harp. This one gets me a little bit better feel for some approach shots than what I might want this for. This one tends to stick a little bit more. Forehands, I feel like I can turn this one over a little bit better on some like forehand Anheuser approaches. I don't know if it's just because it has a flat top or exactly what it is, but I just feel way more comfortable with throwing like forehand Anheuser approaches or, you know, little flex backhand up shots, and this one just sticks to the ground a lot better than the TP one does. For my straight and glidey approach putter, I throw the EMAC Judge, and I believe this is the Moonshine. Glidey, not very overstable, kind of like that other Truth that I have. I can just put it on whatever line, slight hyzer, carries it out, Anheuser carries it out, flat, pretty much lands flat. Just a great approach putter. So lastly, before this last couple events, I was using the EMAC Judge. There's nothing wrong with the EMAC Judge. I just like a little bit more overstable flight of the Agent. When we got these in and I felt them for the first time, I was thinking, wow, I like that flat top. I like that they're a little bit more overstable so I can trust them in the wind a little bit more. And they have good glide. They just have a little bit more fade at the end of the flight than the EMAC Judge, where it just kind of wants to carry it straight. But yeah, I've been loving these Agents. They just have a good glidey, overstable flight. They're just a little bit deeper than the EMAC Judge that I like. The last putting putter I have, I believe this is a blend Warden. I tried the Warden before for inside the circle, but I really have just been loving the glide that I get out of it for the outside the circle putts. Got a little bit softer feel, and I feel like I can just hang it up and it'll just drop in for me. I don't know what it is about this one. I've just been working well, so I'm sticking to it.